Hello, my name's Rolland Schearer. I'm the founder and game developer of Creative Youth Presentations. And in this segment, I want to talk about what we call fractional combination. The reason this is going to be important is I've got several fraction type games, and you're going to have to, in order for the game to go well and quickly, you're going to have to be able to look at a hand of 5 fractions and determine whether or not you can combine any 2 of those fractions to come up with a particular answer or an equivalent to that answer. And so you're going to have to try to be able to just look at the hand, not write anything down. And so this segment, I'm going to go through the procedure of combining fractions simply by looking at those fractions in your hand. The playing deck that comes with these games are 14 sets of fraction, 2 fractions in each set. So it's a 28 card playing hand. And one of the things that I have to try to work with the student on is to give them a timed test on combining all 14 sets of fractions. When they can do that successfully and get all of that done correctly in 5 minutes or less, that tells me then they are ready to be able to play that game well very quickly. You can play it while you're learning this also. So the idea though is to try to get to the point where you can pass that timed exam or test on the fractional combination. So what we're going to do, we'll look at the sheet back here and we'll try to explain, I'll try to explain just what we're doing with it. So if we take a look now at the first page, you're going to see up at the top, it's going to say fractional combination. Then you'll see ASMD, add, subtract, multiply, and divide. That's how you're combining any 2 fractions. Now there's another statement, and it says X underline equals X. So what you want to do is you want to get that to memory. X underline equals X. What that's saying is the X underline goes for addition. X underline, the second one, is subtraction. Equal is multiplication, and X by itself is divide. Now, what's that saying? Well, if we look, there's a little note here that says always start in the upper left. Now what we're talking about is here we have a fraction, a number over a number, and then a second number over a number. And the upper left is here, and you always start in all 4 of these, you're always starting with the upper left. So that's what you want to try to keep in mind. So again, we're adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing any 2 fractions, and we're remembering X underline equals X to describe how we're accomplishing it. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to talk about each one separately here. The first one is right here. This is X underline. And what we have here is we have the upper left number down diagonally to the lower right. That multiplication is your first number, and then a second number is the upper right down to the lower left. So there's your X, this way and then this way. There's your X. Underline means you're multiplying the 2 denominators together. That's your underline. So for add and subtract, what you're doing is you're doing an X underline for both add and subtract. When we get to multiplication, we do equals. So you make an equal sign across the top and a multiplying across the bottom. There's your 2 lines for equals. That's multiplying the 2 fractions. Then when you get to divide, you have a simple x. And so what we do there is we go upper left again, down to the lower right. That's your first number. And multiplying, that's the top number of the answer. And then the upper right down to the lower left, that's your lower number for the answer. So again, we're doing an X underline for add and subtract. We're doing an equal for multiplying across top, across the bottom. And that'd be, if it was 1/2 and 1/2, you would go 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4, it'd be 1/4. If you're dividing, you start in the upper left, you go down on a diagonal, that's your upper number of the answer. Upper right down to the lower left, that's your lower number of the answer, and there's your X. So you want to just try to keep in mind X underline, that's add and subtract, equals, that's multiplying, X, that's divide. So this is the procedure that you want to use on this. Now, the other thing you want to keep in mind is that when you're combining fractions, there's going to be an answer that you come up with. If you use this x underline equals x, that's going to give you an answer. Now let's take example of 1/2 and a 1/3. If I'm adding those together, I'm going to go down. 1 times 3 is 3, plus 1 times 2 is 2. That's 5, because I'm adding them together over the bottom 2 multiplied. 2 times 3 is 6. So you got a 5/6. Now you got to remember with fractions that there are an infinite number of other fractions that have the same value as that one you just formed. So if you've got a 5/6, if you multiply the top and bottom by the same number, let's say a 2, 5/6, you multiply each by 2, that's going to be 10/12. That means 10/12 is an equal in math value to 5/6. The procedure, the reason I want to train students using this x underline equals x is it gives you one good fraction, good starting fraction. Now you can do other things with it, but it'll give you a good starting fraction to use. And when you're playing the math games with the fractions, you're going to look at an answer and let's say it's 5/6. Well, once you get used to this, you're going to recognize that one real quick. That's a 1/2 and a 1/3. But before you recognize it that way, what you can do is you'll look and say we need a 6 on the bottom. That means I've got to have a 2 and a 3 multiplied because we're multiplying on the bottom. That'll give us the 6. So do I have a 2 and a 3 on the bottom? I look, there's a 1/2. There's a 1/3. When you check it out, sure enough, that's a 5/6. So the idea of the timed exam is to get you quickly to be able to look at your hand and determine if you can make a certain answer. So this segment here, I'm just going to try to get you used to how to perform that sequence. And this is the starting point. And then the timed exam is kind of the point at which you finally have it down good enough to, well enough there to actually complete it in 5 minutes or less. And the way we do the timed exam is if you have a 1/2, 1/3, and you say 4/6, and I say not correct. So you look back at it and you do it. Oh, okay, 5/6. Right. Guess what? You just ate up some time off the clock. See, if you do too much of that, you're not going to complete it in the 5 minutes. And I timed this myself going very rapidly. You can do it in about 3 minutes and almost 4 minutes, not just under 4 minutes, but I'm putting an extra minute on so you don't have to go extremely fast on it. But you do have to understand it. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll switch to another sheet here at this point, and we're going to take a look at a little further. Okay, back again, and we've got a different sheet up on the board, so let's take a look at a couple things here. I identify this as fractional combination, and this is the timed test of fractional combination. What we have is 14 pairs of fractions, and you have to complete it successfully and correctly in 5 minutes or less. And then we also have a statement here that I want the students to perform these combinations using x underline equals x. Now the reason I say it this way, as though there's a reason to as to maybe why maybe there's something different about what I just said, why you have to do it this way. Let's say that you have 1/3 plus 2/3. Well, if you understand fractions, you'll know that when the denominator is the same, you keep the denominator, the 3, and you just add the numerators. Now that's breaking away from x underline, see? So but here's the thing. The reason I want you to stick to the x underline is so you really get used to that procedure. If you have a 1/3 and a 2/3, that makes 3/3 or 1. If we use the x underline for addition, we're going to go the upper left, the 1 down to the 3. 1 times 3 is 3. And then 2 times 3 going the other way is a 6. So what do you have? You have a 6 and a 3 on the top. That's 9 over, you multiply the denominators together and you got 9. 9/9, that's equal to 1. So you can either say 3/3 is 1, 9/9 is 1. So either way, you're getting the right answer. Again, what I want to do, and you look at that sheet up there, and I want you to do it that other way, the x underline equals x. That way you get used to that procedure. And then the next thing we'll do is I'll go ahead and put another sheet up, and this is a sheet. I went through the deck and I wrote down 2 at a time. I laid them out, and there's a sequence that you could use for that time test. So let me hang that sheet up and we'll take a quick look at it. Okay, now again with this is a sheet where I went through the deck and I took 2 at a time, and this would be the time test. So here you have each of these fraction pairs, and what you would do, you would start with the very top one, and then you would say add, and you'd go through it, subtract, and then multiply and divide. And when you did that, you would come up with this. For example, if you have let's go down and take the lower one here. This is a 2/5 and 2/3. So let's just, we'll look at that one, 2/5 and 2/3. So to pass the test, what you would say, when you get to that one, you would go like this, 2/5, 2/3. Add 6 plus 10 is 16 over 15. Subtract 6 and 10. Difference is 4. Answer is 4 over 15. Multiply 4 over 15. Divide 6 over 10. And then you'd switch to a different fraction pair. So what you have to do is you can see you have to go, if you go quickly like that, you're going to make it in probably 4 minutes. If you hesitate or you make a mistake here or there, have to correct it, you could run into trouble making the 4 minutes or the 5 minutes. So that's the lesson on how to do this. So what you can do is go through this slowly, pause it, make sure you understand each step of the way, and then the key feature of this is going to be, how do you know when you've mastered this particular segment? It's real easy. Can you pass the time test? And if you can, that means you understand what's going on. So again, take your time on it, and then I want to give my ID information so you can get in touch with me, and we can go ahead and put that on at the end. Is that right, Tyler? Yeah. Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll get that information on there. If you got any questions, feel free to get in touch with me. Either phone, email, and I'll see what I can do to take care of that. So see what you can do with this, and if you do have questions, get in touch with me. And then what I'll do on another segment is I'll put up a fractional game, and I'll demonstrate how this really works when you actually play a game with it. But this instructional lesson is really necessary. You've got to understand that, or you're not going to be able to play that game well, and it's going to go so slow that it won't be good. So see what you can do with this, and be getting in touch with me if you got any questions. And I'll be working at actually putting an actual game clip together where we do maybe 3 turns of play, so you can get an idea of how this actually works in a game. So again, this is Rolland Schearer, the founder and game developer for Creative Youth Presentations. And I'll sign off for now, and we'll see what we can do about getting a clip together and showing how this actually works in an actual game. So thanks for watching, and I hope it is of help to you. Thank you.